coming to celebrate my dad's life. My dad was born in the countryside of Taiwan, where he grew up swimming in the local lakes and rivers. This is the reason why I believe my dad always had a childlike love for nature. He always seemed so happy to take off his shoes and socks and walk into any neighboring river. My dad came from humble beginnings. He shared with me stories of him and his 7 siblings simply having soy sauce and rice to eat growing up. After college, my dad moved to America in search of a better future for his family. My dad did not attend school in America, so he had a hard time convincing employers in America of his Taiwanese credentials. As a result, my dad started offering to work for free in order to prove his capabilities. I am not sure if it was my dad's confidence or the free labor, but he eventually was able to convince someone to hire him. And the rest is history. After this, he was able to work in the tech industry at companies like Intel and Boeing for over 30 plus years. Because of his hard work and determination, my mom, Tina, was able to join my dad here in America. A couple years later, I joined the family. Outside of work and church, my dad's time was mostly spent playing sports. Ever since I was young, I knew Saturday after lunch was reserved for his sports, whether it was volleyball, soccer, or some other outdoor activity. I only remember a couple of times where he was willing to forego this precious time. He loved sports, and you could always tell when he was away from it for some time, he was not the same. It's because of this I am happy that my dad was able to play sports for the entirety of his life. My dad is very confident in his ability to play sports, especially for his age. He always liked to say, "I can play soccer with people my son's age." However, outside of sports, my dad is a very different person in many ways. One example is his speed. If you ever see him walking around the house versus the soccer field, you will be amazed it's the same person. Another key difference is he rarely brags or boasts outside of sports. He is a very humble person. He never did things for praise and acknowledgement. He was always volunteering for the thankless roles. From being the backstage technician in the Ching Ching chorus to the HOA president for a neighborhood when nobody else would step up, to being my soccer coach after the previous coach had retired. My dad was always willing to take on these undesired but important positions for the community. When my dad and his siblings were growing up in the countryside of Taiwan, they often received charity donations of clothes and food from the local church. He saw firsthand the power these simple acts of kindness had on his family. I can't help but believe this is why my dad has always been an unselfish and faithful person, so heavily involved in the church. My dad is always seeking opportunities to help others, from families to strangers. I'd like to share one example using my cousin Matt's words, talking about his 2-year stay at my parents' house. And I quote, "The thing that stood out to me about Uncle Ray is his willingness to help others. A few years back, Uncle Ray heard about a potential job opportunity from a friend. He knew I was looking for a job at the time. So he reached out to see if I was interested in relocating. I wasn't too keen on the idea, but he just kept pushing and said I could live in their house if I moved. Imagine, insisting someone to move into your house rent-free. That's just who Uncle Ray is, full of generosity and always going out of his way to lend a helping hand. When I eventually moved in, he went above and beyond to help me get settled and feel at home. Introduced me to his church friends, took me hiking with his hiking group, went to see a concert with his old choir, played basketball with locals at a nearby park, enrolled at a gym, went to Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner with his extended family and friends. There are many, many more examples. I was able to establish a foothold in Fremont quickly in large part due to Uncle Ray's relentless efforts. To this day, I'm still affected by Uncle Ray and Aunt Tina's massive outpouring of love. I cannot overstate my appreciation for them. Thank you, Uncle Ray and Aunt Tina. End quote. My dad could have easily invited Matt to live at our house and referred him to the job and stopped there, but he went the extra mile to help Matt like his own son. I still remember my dad helping him prepare for the technical interview and helping him brush up on engineering concepts just like he had done with me. Another thing I'm amazed about is my dad's calm and easygoing temperament. Through the 31 years we shared together, I cannot recall a single instance of him losing control of his emotions. Lord knows I definitely tested his patience. Regardless of how unreasonable I was acting, he always responded with love. This does not mean my dad was a pushover. If I had done something out of line, he was not afraid to sternly punish me. But in the end, I always know he loved me and it was for my own good. Most impressively was my dad's open-mindedness. If we disagreed on something, he did not force his opinions on me, but allowed me to learn through my own journey, even if that meant arriving at a different viewpoint than his. My dad never cared for typical material things, from cars to clothes or even food. Even when it came to something he loved so much, like soccer, he would never buy the expensive soccer shoes. When it came to food, my dad was very simple and had no interest in trying new foods. However, my dad would love to try new recipes created by the family. He always prioritized the home-cooked food at family gatherings compared to the store-bought. I like to imagine, instead of tasting the salt and sugar, my dad was able to savor the care and thought behind all these foods. My dad understood what the important things in life were and found joy from them. I remember my dad was very sad when he found out a tape cassette of my younger self was overwritten. In the tape, I was just learning animal sounds, and my dad was quizzing me on animals like dogs and sheep. To him, his only child's renditions of animals were priceless. He always loved kids and was great with them. Growing up as an only child, I never felt lonely thanks to my best friend, my dad. He was such a great friend, he could even amuse me when he took his daily afternoon naps. My favorite pastime was testing his patience by annoying him. So during those naps, I would pile all the blankets in the room on him while he napped to see if he would react. His patience never wavered, as I usually got bored and left, and he would continue to sleep with all the blankets draped over him. I thought long and hard about my dad these past weeks, trying to dig up all the stories so I can most accurately remember him. That means the good and the bad. But I can honestly say that the most negative thing I can recall about him through the 31 years was his stubbornness to get a cell phone. I think that speaks volumes about the person my dad is. His memories live on through all of us here. These memories are very special to me, as they serve as a blueprint in how to live a righteous life. I am blessed knowing if I ever face a tough decision in life, he will be there to guide me.